Salutations to all my utopians. This is Global. Welcome to Global Utopia Sports. Um, for my first video post intro, I think we're going to pivot on the topic of what's arguably one of the greatest, not arguably, is one of the greatest dynasties of all time. I want to talk about the Golden State Warriors and the offseason that they're going to face. Um, First domino that we've witnessed this offseason, Bob Myers was decided to step down. Understandably so. There's no official word, just one could speculate. No one wants to be afforded the responsibility of trying to negotiate with the two most historical, tenured players on this current Warriors roster, Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. One could speculate on the different reasons why he stepped down, but it's pretty clear. First off, kudos to him and the great run that he had with this franchise. He's been phenomenal. What he's meant to this organization is going to be very difficult act to follow for Mike Dunleavy Jr., who was just hired. Dunleavy Jr., first and foremost, that name is known. His father, a fairly good winner in the league as a head coach. Regardless of chips, he definitely commanded respect in every locker room he was in, and was respected. And his son, dating back to his years in Duke, and then fast forwarding into the NBA, was always a very good player, very serviceable player in the league. Well respected, well rounded game. Never questioned his work ethic. Toughness was was there, and I'm confident Mike Krzyzewski, one of Mike Krzyzewski's favorite alumni of all time. Fast forward, Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors. He's what you want to see from a team owner. If you were going to draw it up, he spends the money. They are due for another $500 million this offseason. Jordan Poole got about 128, 140 million. Wiggins is north of 100 mil. Curry's going to get what he's getting. And so the question becomes really Draymond and Klay. And do you ring them back? Do you re-up these two quality players? What happens? And so you look at it and you say to yourself, well, obviously, Steph is the prize asset. There is no, and his number one bodyguard has been Draymond. Do you go Draymond and no Klay? Do you sign both Klay and Draymond? You got DiVincenzo. You have Poole at the two guard spot. Poole is foaming at the mouth, and he's becoming very, very animated about his distaste for having to play limited role minutes. He's ready to step into something. Kuminga, conversely, is in the same discussion in terms of itching and foaming at the mouth to be able to just, I'm ready to get in and serve. And the Golden State Warriors have to decide. They got some tough choices to make. You don't have a shortage of options. The one thing about the Warriors, if Klay steps down, you got Poole, you got DiVincenzo, who you can re-up. Obviously, DiVincenzo is going to be seeking a lot more than what he's made this last season. Resurrecting his career, coming to Golden State on a prove-it deal, and he most definitely proved himself. Kuminga and JaMychal Green, you have those two quality depth players if you want to come off of Draymond, but it will definitely look like a different team if they elect to take this route. With that being said, you can understand each side of the coin, with that being, without it being, oh, they're so horrible. I mean, look, this is the only team I really can remember that has gone over the threshold and has actually experienced success. You normally can't buy your way into a ring. We've seen the 98 Redskins try to do it with Dan Snyder when they infamously signed Albert Haynesworth, and they were just inking, big name free agents left and right. Didn't work. Yankees were notorious for this too. You would think they would have, even though they have a lot of rings, you would think they have a lot more. Leading with your wallet isn't always the answer. Draymond's game is a very difficult one to measure, and he is doing a great job. I don't know how legitimate it is, But hanging with LeBron, being in LA, knowing that they can make up the money in different ways, Tinseltown and movie productions, and knowing with all the means of all the means of access that LeBron has in LA, him, it's kind of difficult, and him being a Clutch Sports client, it's kind of difficult to gauge what he is really willing to do. There is a very good possibility he could end up in Detroit as a leader, as a vocal leader. They got talent. And what people are, with the Monty Williams money being spent, they're showing that no expense will go spared. You got Cade Cunningham, who was injured. Jaden Ivey, to me, is like a step below Ja in terms of being explosive, and they're kind of trying to figure out that whole situation because who's going to be the primary ball handler. But a veteran leader like that over there, paired with Jalen Duran, who's going to be a future star in the making. You hear Paul George baking him up on the podcast, calling him the next big star. Then you still got Isaiah Stewart, who's a physical presence. Could you imagine Isaiah Stewart and Draymond Green on the court at the same time? What a tempo, what a stage that would set. That's literally why the Miami Heat are getting to the finals, the way they have 2 out of 3 seasons. Basically, that physical identity. And now you got the two of the most physical players in the entire league on the same roster. That would speed up the development process so much because Cade Cunningham is a guy who plays the game with no flaw. He's not the most explosive athlete, but my oh my, Bogdanovich, you got Marvin Bagley with some length coming off the bench. It's just like, what kind of devastation are you bringing to a team out there right now? What kind of product are you putting on the floor for Detroit? You're going back to the old Bad Boys days at that point. And so, Draymond is not short of options. And here's the thing: if I'm not going, he's getting, north of 25 for sure this year, but he wants to get some security. He wants to feel like the future is set, and this is his last chance at it. And while you're trying new things, why not sit up here and see who, if how much of you had to do with Steph's success? Because in the 90s, that was always the business model. You got Tim Hardaway, well, you got PJ Brown, Alonzo Mourning, you got Patrick Ewing, you got Oak and Anthony Mason. The business model is always keep a couple goons around to protect the most valuable prize guy. And so with Jordan, you had 6'6" Ron Harper, Scottie Pippen 6'8", Dennis Rodman 6'9". Then you had a humongous bear in Luke Longley. And so it was always pieces that were there to do the dirty work. And can you honestly say that you're comfortable leaving your prized investment to fend for himself? I mean, it sounds good, I know. And here's why it's very disturbing, because of what's going to happen here. Because you're sitting here asking yourself, okay, Steve Kerr in the middle of the season basically stated, Steph is going to be the new leader, the new voice, the new locker room presence. And so it's like, and then it kind of makes you wonder, what was the tiff between Draymond and Jordan Poole about? You can't help but wonder, did Draymond, deck him in the face because, he knows him getting paid is the writing on the wall for his tenure in Golden State, and he's looking in the face of someone who's not really showing any kind of humbleness or gratitude, knowing that basically his signing was a symbol of Draymond's tenure in Golden State. Maybe he got the news already going into the season that the probability that they're going to re-up him is slim to none. I mean, in order to pay these guys, the fans have to be in the seats. San Francisco is losing businesses left and right. You have to ask yourself, can you afford to go above and beyond the tax threshold if you're the Warriors? I don't know. I don't think so. You know what I mean? And so, you already got rings. You got, what, 4 or 5 of them now? So how much is it worth, really? I mean, don't get me wrong. Championships are forever, but at the end of the day, those rings don't have aftermarket value like that luxury tax threshold. And at some point, you're going to have to start creating new traditions. So if you're the Warriors, if I have to make a decision, I definitely, Draymond is more priority to me than Clay. I know Clay at certain times last year displayed some moments, especially against the Lakers, where he just looked unguardable. But realistically, though he's never been an above the rim type of player, he's slowing down dramatically. And when he's having a shooting slump, it's really hard to justify what else does he bring to the table. Um, can another team use him? Absolutely. But if I'm gonna have to break another $100 million, you know, and then chip off another 100 million, is he 500? Because you're not. It's not the 100 million. It's the 500 million. Is it worth it? What means the world to you, Joe Lacob? To me, that's a tough call. I wouldn't want to be in that position. But as a person who's not emotionally involved in any kind of way, I'm probably, cutting my losses and beginning the new chapter. There's not like you don't have anything in reserve. You got players, and you've paid some very handsomely, and others who are foaming at the mouth to get paid. And so, I don't like the idea they moved off Wiseman. I think they moved off him a little too soon, but maybe the mojo was never right. But if they are going to, then that means you need to go out this offseason and make Brook Lopez a priority, number one. As a rim protector, as a floor spacer, he needs to be the guy you guys are going after. Well, can't wait to see what's happening. Looking forward to the next days to come. This is a very, very polarizing off season, especially when you know what the collective bargaining agreement is coming near. What's going to happen?